Hello and welcome to GPU Overclocking Level 1. In today's video we're going to go over the very most basic way to overclock your graphics card. Starting with, let's download the utility that you're going to need to do that. So I like to use MSI Afterburner. It seems to be a pretty popular one amongst the gaming community in general as well. And I tend to like this one best because it does come with Riva Tuner as well, which is that overlay that you see in a lot of other videos that shows the frame rate and the utilizations and things like that. So we'll start here, and definitely make sure you're downloading it directly from the MSI website. Just want to make sure you don't get any viruses or anything like that, so get it right from the source. And then you just click download, and I already have it installed, so I'm not going to do it again here, but I'm sure you know how to download software, so let's fire up. Alright, so now that we have MSI Afterburner going, the next thing we're going to want to do is download our benchmark utility. And this is just so that we can get a baseline for what the performance is like bone stock, and then as we go ahead and increase the clock speeds and whatnot, we'll see how the improvement goes. And if at any point we lose performance, we know we've gone a little bit too far, maybe getting some errors, so we need to scale it back a little bit. So what we're going to be using is 3D Mark. So in Steam, you can grab it from the store there, just search for 3D. I believe it's all one word, 3D Mark, yes. Okay, so it's going to say that it costs $33.99, but there's a demo version available for free. That's the one we're going to grab. We don't want to spend money if we don't have to. If you just scroll down a little bit, there's an option to download the demo. Now I already have it again, so I'm not going to bother. Okay, so once you have 3D Mark downloaded, installed, and launched from your Steam library, you'll be presented with this screen right here. And so you'll notice TimeSpy is the one that we're going to want to run. It comes with it, it's included. But it does say that my settings may affect my score, so let's see what that's all about. Okay, we recommend disabling G-Sync before running the benchmark. Alright, so because I have a G-Sync monitor and G-Sync is currently enabled, apparently that could mess with the score a little bit. So I honestly can't see how it would affect it that much, but just in case, we'll go ahead and turn that off. So here's how you go about doing that. So you just want to go into your control panel. So right click anywhere on your desktop, Nvidia control panel. Then set up G-Sync under display. Click on the monitor that you're working with, and uncheck the enable G-Sync. And apply. Okay, so now that we're back into the application, we'll see that that warning message is now gone. And yeah, so we're going to be doing this on a 3090, but any GeForce graphics card will work this way. All right, so let's go ahead and launch the application. Okay, and it's finally done. All right. So unfortunately, there's no way to skip any of that in the free version. You can pay for it, and then you can skip some of the tests, and especially the intro and the CPU test, etc. But so yeah, this is a bone stock result. Didn't change anything yet. This is just the way it comes out of the box. And we've got a score of 18727, which is a combined score, but your graphics score is going to be the one up at the top here. But we're going to want to look at the graphics score specifically, so 19423, and that's without any sort of overclocking or anything like that. So now we are going to try a bit of overclocking. So what I want to do is open up Afterburner here, and the first thing I always do is max out these first three sliders here. Now, the core voltage isn't likely to do anything at this point because ever since, I believe it's Maxwell, they lock people out of being able to change core voltages. I still like to do it anyway, just in case, you never know. Ultimately, it won't actually allow it to hurt itself anyway, so there's no reason not to max these out. Power limit, temperature, temperature. So this will at least allow it a little bit more power. It's still pretty limited, but this is the best we can do out of the box. I just want to do one more benchmark with just those things changed without changing any core clocks, any memory clocks, anything like that, just to see how much of a difference it can make just by loosening the restrictions a little bit. So we'll apply that. Oh, sorry, one more thing actually is the fan speed. I also like to set that at 100 just because the extra performance you get from the additional cooling I find outweighs the little bit of power consumption that the fans use up. Unless noise is a problem for you, that's the only other reason I would say maybe go a little bit lower, but I don't care about noise for this. Hopefully it doesn't pick up on the mic, but so hit apply. Alright, so let's try it just like this and see how much of a difference it can make. Alright, so we're done with another round of benchmarks here, and we've gained just about 1,000 GPU score just by loosening the restrictions a little bit. So that's without changing any clock speeds or anything. So let's see if we can do a little bit better now. We'll start actually increasing some clock speeds now. I think we can probably start off with a 75 megahertz offset on the core. That's actually pretty weak, so there's a pretty good chance that nothing bad will happen there, but worst case scenario crashes and we go back to the drawing board. But and in this case, in some cases, you might want to just try to creep up the core clock little by little and then do the memory clock. But I kind of have an idea after some experience of just what we can expect anyway, so I'm going to put a little bit of a memory overclock on top of this, but if you're really not sure what your card's capable of, then just start with the core, go as high as you can, and then go with the memory after that. But I'm quite confident that we can do at least this, so plus 75 on the core, plus 500 on the memory, and leave everything else maxed out there. Apply. Alright, and let's run it again. So now we are up to 20,841. And that was just our first kick at the can as far as actual frequency overclocking. And it's pretty good increase, especially since it wasn't really that strong of an overclock. So I think we can definitely do better. Let's creep it up a little bit more. Now, you don't necessarily have to do this. I tend to like to creep it up in increments of 15 megahertz just because that's the same as what Nvidia's built-in logic does when it boosts up or down. It's always in increments of 15. So I'm actually going to jump it up to 105. So we'll skip 90, go right to 105. And let's go to 600 on the memory. Apply. Let's try this again. Okay, so after another run, we're up to 20,991. So still going up, but much smaller amounts now, which is to be expected because the first time we went all the way from no overclock at all the way up to our initial offsets, and now we're just creeping it up a little by little. So it's going to go up more slowly now, and this is basically the entire process. Is you just go up by 15 to 30, somewhere around there on the core each time, maybe a little more memory clock each time as well. Again, only if you're fairly comfortable with it. I would say maybe leave the memory clock alone for the first few runs, and then, you know, once you're pretty good on once you're set on the core clock and you've gotten that pretty much as far as you can reasonably get it, then you can start looking at the memory clock. But I'm kind of doing the two of them together in the interest of time, and also just because I've done this quite a few times before. So yeah, at this point, it's just a matter of keeping it up a little bit at a time. So I'm not going to bore you with doing the same thing over and over and over again, but let's explore what happens when you accidentally, or on purpose in this case, set it way too high, and it's going to go ahead and crash. So we'll see, let's just say 200 and 2000. Actually, that's probably going to crash too fast. I don't want to do that. Let's say 1300. It almost, I mean, the core clock alone is way too high for stock cooling with no power mods or anything like that. So that's going to crash anyway. So I'll go ahead and apply that. It might even crash. Hopefully it doesn't crash before I get into the benchmark. But okay, so there's that, and we'll go ahead and run it again. Okay, so there's our crash. And as you can see, it just exits the benchmark. Oh, actually, because that was just the initial test, it's going to try again to go through the actual benchmark run, but it's probably going to do the same thing. That was just supposed to be the intro. It's not nearly as heavy as the actual benchmark, so if it crashed on that, it's not going to make it through this, but we'll see what happens. Okay, well, it made it a lot farther than I thought it would, but yeah, sure enough, we do have a crash. Yikes. that was a full crash. That one restarted my computer. Okay. Well, luckily I'm recording on a different system, so this will keep going, but wow. So, after having pretty much the hardest crash that you could possibly expect to have, just got the whole computer restarted, I'm still back and everything's fine. As you can see, there's no issues, so really nothing to be afraid of. There's nothing that you can actually damage here. And after doing a few more test runs, I determined that the best I could do was actually 105 offset on the core anyway, but I managed to push that memory block up to 1000. And we ended up with a score of 21,112. So yeah, that's pretty much it in a nutshell. Again, you might crash. A lot of times it won't be quite as bad as what you saw there. It'll just be the application will go back to the home screen here, and instead of giving you a score like you see here, it'll just say that the test failed. Or worst case scenario, your system restarts and you pick up where you left off. Not a huge deal. And that is going to do it for GPU overclocking level 1. If you enjoyed this short to the point video on the basics of overclocking, make sure to drop a like. And if you're someone who maybe has overclocked already in the past and thought that this was a little bit too simplistic, make sure to get subscribed because we will be going into more in-depth methods of overclocking in the future. Thanks for stopping by. We'll see you next time.